Yo, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So on this video, guys, I basically want to go over my expenses as an Amazon seller. Okay, so I'm going to break down how much I'm spending on certain software, supplies and whatnot, insurance, all that good stuff that I spend on a monthly basis with the business. Okay, so I'm going to break it down, go over it, and mainly I want to make this video because I know some of you, watch either me or watch some of the bigger influencers out there who are doing way bigger things than me, and bigger sellers and whatnot. And I know you get it just that, you start making sales and you start seeing this money come in and whatnot, but you never really hear how much they're actually spending per monthly basis on some of the expenses alone. So when you start breaking those down, then it starts adding up little by little. And of course, the more you scale, the more money you start making, the more your expenses start increasing as well. Because in order to scale, you gotta, upgrade on, equipment and whatnot. So again, on this video, I'm gonna be breaking down what I spend on a monthly basis, and just so you know that not all of these sales are basically profit and whatnot, and not to think that I'm trying to, make this business seem like it's a get rich quick type of scheme. I never try to do that. I never try to impose those beliefs into anybody, because this business model, it takes work, it takes money, and it takes patience. But you've heard me say this before multiple times. So anyways, let's break it down. Let's go over what, some of the expenses that that I spend on a monthly basis. And yeah, so with that, let's get started. So I got a notebook right here with the whole list and whatnot. So first and foremost, obviously the Amazon Pro account itself. Now, when starting off, you can start with the free account, free of charge. You sign up for it, and when you're starting off and you're only listing like 10 items or 20 items, then it makes sense to start with the free account, because you're not selling so many items yet to cover that $40 basis. But once you start selling 40 items or over, then it makes sense to upgrade to the pro account, because on the free account, Amazon will start charging you, on top of their fees, an extra dollar per item that you sell. So when you start selling 40 plus items every month, those dollar fees, they start adding up. Next thing you know, you're paying tens of hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, literally just going down the drain because you don't want to upgrade to the pro account. So that's my first expense. Yearly basis, I probably waste like $480 or so for the account, if you multiply 40 times 12 and whatnot. So there's that one. Now the second expense that I have on the list, which should have been the last, and it's the most expensive one of them all, is my Repricer, which I use is Seller Snap. Okay, now in case you don't know what a Repricer is, basically, when you're listing your items on Amazon, and let's say you have competitors on the item also, your competitor, they might drop the price by a penny or so, by 50 cents or $1. And without a repricer, well, if you're never repricing your products manually, then you're basically going to be missing out on sales, because you can't keep up with the sellers who are lowering their prices or even increasing their prices. So with this, it does it all automatically, with an AI robot or whatever. And therefore, when someone changes their prices, mine goes down as well, as long as I set up my mins and max, okay, on my prices. Now, I'm not about to go, deep on this whole process, but to do this, I'm basically spending $250 on it monthly, okay? And that's on the cheap side, because since I was making less than 20K a month, when I signed up for it, they basically half the price. Now, I've heard that they might stay with this price now because of other competitors. I'm not entirely sure. But I know once the trial is up or whatever, the full price is like $500. So, moving forward, going to that, depending on how my sales continue to grow and grow throughout the next few months until the trial ends, I may or may not still go with it. So far, it's doing pretty well. All right, I'm not complaining. For $250, it's well worth the price if you ask me. But I mean, again, $500 is a huge bump in profit that I'm gonna be wasting. So again, $250 so far a month. So I mean, that's quite a bit of money. All right, again, that's my most expensive software product, whatever you want to call it, that I'm spending on a monthly basis. Now, number 3 on the list, and it's the most important one that every seller should get regardless of what level you're on, is Keepa, which basically does all the product research for you. It tells you the yearly historical data on how much something sold, how many sellers are on a listing, if people are jumping off a listing, you know, they're starting to get on one, get off, whatever you want to call it. Now, for this one, I did the yearly subscription, which, you know, divided by whatever the price was, I'm paying basically 15 bucks and 75 cents for it, which is extremely cheap, guys. Like, if anybody's ever, you know, thinking of doing a Amazon account and starting to sell on Amazon, this is the number one software that anybody should have. Without this software, you're going in blind with nothing, okay? So 15 bucks, 16 bucks, whatever the price is. I think for the normal monthly price is like 18, 19 bucks or so. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't checked on it in a while, but yeah, it's totally worth the money, guys. Like, if there's one thing you should be paying for, it's definitely Keepa. You know, be sure to grab it if you haven't already, especially if you're beginning of starting an Amazon account. Again, 18, 19 bucks, well worth the price. You won't be missing nothing. I mean, trust me, well worth it. Now, next on the list is a Repricer. Now, I don't know how much the yearly price is. I think probably like 90 bucks or so. So when you break down on a monthly basis, like $8 and some change. So Repricer, it basically, you know, when I'm on the product list, it tells me what the fees are, how much, you know, it's gonna break down basically the fees and whatnot. It'll tell me if I'm restricted on certain items, if I'm ungated, how many sellers there are. You know, it just gives you a bunch of other info already right there on the page itself, to where all you have to input is your, you know, cost of good on there, and it'll tell you how much profit you're left with, all before you actually go out and buy the product. So therefore, you have it right there while doing the research, and you know, you'll know whether or not it's a good buy, whether it's profitable or even worth your time. Okay, so again, Repricer, not even 9 bucks per month that I'm paying for it. Pretty good as well. Not as important as not important as Keepa, but pretty, you know, if you can afford it, go for it as well. So anyways, on to the next one. Jungle Scout. Now, Jungle Scout is, you know, it's 50-50 with certain sellers. Like, I've seen retail arbitrage and OA sellers that don't want to use it, which I perfectly understand, because it's geared towards more like private label sellers and kind of wholesalers as well, because I know my boy Larry Labarsky, he uses this for his account, for his, you know, business model. And you know, it has its perks. Like, I can see why for a retail arbitrager it's not useful, but I mean, like, if you're doing wholesale and private label, then this is definitely a good product to go for. Now, again, it could go either way. If you don't want to use it, that's perfectly fine. You don't need to use it, okay? Like, you can kind of do this whole business model without it. Now, the only main reason that I'm really sticking to it is because of the feedback program that it offers, which basically, I'll go on my orders page on my account, and you know, since it has the Chrome extension on it, I just hit one tab on there, which is the Jungle Scout tab, and it'll automatically, you know, send emails to all my buyers who buy my products, and hopefully it will reel me in more feedback, you know, as far as for my account. Now, the reason I like this is because it does it all automatically. So versus like you having to go on each order one by one, sending it, clicking it, back and forth, one-on-one. You know, it's just so time consuming to do it manually that you'll probably spend a good hour or two just doing it. And with this, I'll spend like less than 15 minutes, go through hundreds of items, and hopefully getting at least 1 or 2 feedback on it. Now, so again, it's debatable on whether this is, you know, worth it or not to certain sellers. And it's again, sorry, you don't need it. So it's okay if you do without it. A lot of people have, but again, some people like me will use it for certain features, but again, to each his own. Now, the next one on the list, now since I do, you know, do some retail arbitrage in my business model, I do sign up for the Walmart Plus account. So that's part of an expense for me as well. Now, of course, I'm going to sign for the yearly subscription. So on a monthly basis, I'm spending like $8.17 for this. Now, I mainly use this basically just to scan and go in the store when I'm doing retail arbitrage, because again, it's all about time saving. So, you know, if you have a full cart of hundreds of items and you don't have scan and go, you're going to be basically there scanning for a good 30-40 minutes, one by one, scanning them and scanning them and scanning them. Versus with scan and go, you know, I go in with my phone, I pull up the app, pull up the scan and go, scan the item, you know, I just beep, scan it, and it'll automatically add it to my cart. And you know, if I have two of them, I can adjust it accordingly on the app, and it's already scanned in my cart. So that way, when I'm done shopping, and let's say I have 100 items, well, 100 items have already been scanned into the phone. So all I have to do is go on a cash register, you know, scan the little barcode on there, and then just pay it with my credit card, and it's completely done. You know, everything's all bagged up already because I go in with bags already that I purchased of my own, you know, their Walmart bags, and I'm already heading out the door versus, you know, buying, you know, putting everything in the cart and then scanning it afterwards, spending another 20 minutes doing that. So I mean, it's just, it saves a lot of time. It's worth it for me, considering that's only like $8 a month. I mean, it's well worth the price. But again, that's only because I do retail arbitrage a little bit. Some of you may not, so you may not even need this whatsoever. But if you do, well worth the price. Next on the list, insurance. You know, if you're starting an Amazon business, guys, or any business in general, you need insurance. This whole mindset of going into a business not wanting to get insurance because it's too pricey or whatever, I'm sorry, but if you're gonna try to take a business seriously, you need to get insurance. And you know, I got I forgot what the name is, I think Ashland Hayden or something like that. I mean, it's a well-known Amazon insurance provider. I'm paying like $55 a month for their service, so you know, it covers me under the liability and whatnot to the terms and guidance that Amazon, you know, requires and whatnot. And of course, you could get more. I mean, I just got the basics for now, just because I'm still scaling up, but I also want protection. So again, $55 a month, at least for my quote. I know some people pay more or less. And I mean, let me just say, if you want to pay less on insurance, guys, you got to think about the quality that you're going to get for that as well. Yes, you could be paying $30-40 for insurance from someone else, but what's the quality? Like, if you were to go, you know, to come into a situation now, like, would they be able to pick up the phone and get with you ASAP? Or would you go with someone who has better quality? They'll deal with it ASAP right now, and you know, just deal with it. So again, you know, it's just those minor things. But yes, $55 a month for insurance runs up to like what, $600-700 around, so a year. So again, not too big of a deal, but always get it. And last on the least, Inventory Labs. Inventory Labs is $40 a month, okay, that I'm paying. And again, another software, highly recommended if you can afford it when you're starting out. Next to Keepa, this is probably the second software that I recommend, just because, you know, it keeps tabs of basically all your inventory. It keeps tabs of basically all your like profits and losses, you know, just all of that. Like, you just input the cost of goods that you have, and it'll track it for you, so that way you're not having to do that on a separate spreadsheet manually, one by one or something like that. Now, some people are okay with doing that. That's perfectly fine. Me, I'm not a, you know, spreadsheet type of person, so I'd rather have that software do it all for me. It keeps it nicely formatted, you know, tells me how much I sold an item for, how much I paid for it, and how much profit I made afterwards, ROI, you know, how much I made and whatnot. And plus, you can make your shipments with it, which makes it easier as well. Because with this software, you know, once you list the item, the labels will print out automatically, for, you know, on your printer, on your roller printer, or whatever printer you're using. So, highly recommended software. I know not everybody, you know, likes it, but it's really friendly, beginner friendly, whatever you want to call it, to start off with. You know, it's just simple. So, like, once you get used to it, it's like a piece of cake. You fly through it. But anyways, that's basically all my expenses for the month. So we're gonna total them up. We have like 8 things that we're spending on a monthly basis, which rounds out to $446.24. So that's quite a bit of money when you actually look at it. $446 just on software alone. That's not even including my supplies like boxes, tape, poly bags. I forgot to include that in the video. I apologize for that. Because, you know, I don't buy supplies every month. I kind of buy it in bulk, and you know, it varies from time to time on what I buy, how much I buy. So there's really no specific answer that I could give to that, which is why I didn't include on it. But I mean, when I do my, like, the last purchase I did for supplies, I spent like, I think like $2,000, like from a local box manufacturer, and some supplies from Walmart that I needed as well. So I spent 2 G's on just supplies alone, but that's just a one-time purchase. Like I haven't spent on those supplies in a minute, so you know that'll break down and that'll like expand on its own or whatever you want to say. So, you know, basically $500 a month that I'm spending on software alone, which I know is a lot of money, but you know, like I said earlier, as you start scaling up, your expenses will go up. When I first started, all I had was an Amazon account, so I was just paying the $40 and that was it. You know, that was the only expense I had, other than a few supplies, which was like less than $100 or whatever. So again, the more you scale, the more you're gonna spend. So because after your Amazon account, I went ahead and got Keepa, so that was another expense. Then I went and got Inventory Lab, that was another expense. Then I got Jungle Scout, another expense. Then, you know, Walmart Plus, another one. Then insurance, Rev Seller. The last one I got was Seller Snap, and that's because it was, you know, it's expensive. $250 is a lot of money. That's a lot of profit a month that it's not going in your pocket, right? So, excuse me. So again, you got to take these things into consideration when making an account, because these expenses add up, guys. Okay, don't let these gurus on TikTok or YouTube or whatever have you thinking that, you know, you're gonna make $2,000 per month profit, and you know that's your take-home profit. No, because they're not including the software that you got to spend on this, and then you know everything else in between, like the cost of goods. So you know, so just know that after all my profit and whatnot from sales, that there's still a $500 tab that I gotta pay up, that's not going into me or my family's pocket. Okay, so that's the reality. Now again, everybody's monthly expenses will vary from person to person depending how big you are. Me, I'm still in my house. You know, I got a room finally to set up my little office, whatever you want to call it. Like this is my desk and whatnot. I'll do a little video on that, you know, down the road too. So to me, that's my expenses. Like for people who are way bigger than me, like watch me Amazon in them or Amazon Lit, they have warehouses, they have employees that like they deal with forklifts, all that good stuff. So their expenses are nowhere near as low as what mine are. They're probably wasting $5,000 to $10,000 a month just on expenses alone, just to cover their employees' pay, you know, warehouse maintenance, forklift maintenance. You know, that stuff is not cheap. So again, as you start to scale up, your expenses will get more and more expensive. But for me right now, I'm still in that medium beginner stage, I guess you could call it. So my expenses, are still where they're at right now. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they get more expensive down the road, but if we're making more money, then hey, I'm perfectly fine with that. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that broke it down for some of you. I apologize for this video being pretty long. We're going on 18 minutes now. You know, I know some of you don't have the time probably to watch all this and whatever. That's perfectly fine. You know, me neither. I haven't watched YouTube videos in a long minute, so I perfectly understand. But yeah, I mean, hopefully I didn't take too much of your time, and if you stuck to the end, you know, I appreciate that, you know, because you took your time to, you know, intake my information, my video. So I'm 100% grateful for that, guys. I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm just grateful for it, because I know you could have been spending your time somewhere else watching some other video. And hey, if you didn't stick to the end and you cut off a minute in or 2 minutes or 10 minutes, then hey, that's perfectly fine. I hold nothing against nobody. But yeah, so again, that was just a breakdown of my expenses as an Amazon seller, just to give you a real legit, authentic, you know, point of view from someone who's actually doing it and what to expect going into it. Okay, but with that being said, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for now. You know, I gotta get back to work because we're in Q4 right now. You know, we're in November officially. Just hit 10K in 1 week, so that's something cool to be proud of. Sorry for the lighting. The room light is not set up. My last ring light broke actually because of my kids and whatnot, so I've got to buy a new one eventually. So hopefully the lighting will be better, quality will be better, you know, the sound and whatnot. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up for now, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, later.